We finally know everything there is to know about Death Stranding.
Maybe.
Possibly.
Probably not.
Hot take!
I've been a fan of Hideo Kojima for years, for years and years and years, and I was so excited when Death Stranding was announced because it was Kojima escaping the confines of Konami to make something without the restrictions of a large-scale company, you know, forcing him to do certain things.
Konami was doing some strange stuff back then. That was in 2015. He left, and he decided to go and kind of search around, shop around. We're hearing things about Kojima looking for like a team and an engine for this new game, and then we later found out it was Death Stranding. So it's been in production since 2016, about 3.5 years. But we kept seeing little tidbits of it here or there. A trailer here, a lot of cinematic stuff. We knew there was a lot of real-life actors being portrayed in the game itself. But we didn't know all that much about how it played. What is this game about? What do you do in the game? And we got so much!
Yeah. All right, if you had questions,
there's probably still gonna have
a lot of questions.
Have like a million questions.
Let's be fair on that one. TGS revealed a whole bunch of gameplay. Both Adam and I sat down and watched, I think, what would amount to an hour and a half.
It was about a long movie, about an hour and 40 minutes of Tokyo Game Show footage.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff to take there. Now, believe it or not, what we saw, from what I could tell, was still being edited as it was being performed. So in the gameplay, you could actually see that there was moments where it would go to black or something. Yeah. So we're not seeing gameplay from one to the end. There's kind of an important bit here. Before we begin all this, Kojima said something on Twitter that really freaked people out.
Yeah, what's that?
He said the first half of this game is going to be very slow and people are probably going to get bored. But the other half is really fun. So
this is like kind of what we've always discussed as being like a horrible, horrible thing. When people are like, when we have a negative sort of spin on a game, and sometimes people talk to us and they're like, well, no, get to the 10-hour mark.
Yes.
Get to the 20-hour mark, and then it's great. It's like, well, no, hopefully a game is so enticing, for the first 10 hours, that of course you want to play through the rest of the game. You shouldn't have to have some sort of barrier there.
Yeah, see, this mentality, this concept does not work for, I'm going to say, 99% of people out there. There's 1% of people that are like, you know what? I will eat a plate of poop just to get to dessert.
I'm glad you said poop, Shane.
Yeah. Because that's also a part of this game.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we saw a bunch of gameplay and stuff. I guess the gameplay was taken from the first third or a third of the way into the game. We saw that chunk.
Yeah.
It was basically Sam, Norman Reedus' character, traversing the lands, and we've kind of seen like the rolling green hills and stuff for a while. But we're seeing some more of how you're actually bringing all your stuff in those mechanics. So you're basically bringing items to different sections of the world and trying to reconnect what is the United States of America. United Cities of America.
It's a fractured North America, and you're basically connecting things. So that seems to be what the general focus is here, but there's other stuff going on, like dead people in rain causing tar to rise, and you have to fight people. That still hasn't been laid down, but they did show combat sequences both with regular human people, from what we can tell, and from these ghost people. A lot of it isn't really explained, and that's fine. We don't need explanations for that stuff because you want to play the game to get that stuff. You need a story to go through. The problem I'm having right now is all the gameplay they're showing, it seems to be fractured. Kojima keeps talking about this idea of strands, and he's brought it up in the video, watching the whole thing. He keeps talking about how other players can interface with other players by leaving items to help other players play. And I think what's going on here, and why the game looks so empty, is that while other people are playing, things are going to be left in the field that will extend the gameplay and make it larger. So, of course, a group of people playing this game at Kojima Studio is likely not going to be the amount of people required to build this thing up. Now, there are two frames of thought here. One, that's awesome. The game's going to change the more and more you play. I'm excited about that. But the second problem is you can't test that theory. you need people to play the game in order to prove that that concept actually works as a game, because otherwise you have to just assume everything's going to click together. And the only time I can really think of something like that happening was with the really terrible online performance of Metal Gear Solid 5, which required a lot of people to be playing to make it worthwhile, and a lot of people did, some people didn't, but at the end of the day, the gameplay and online support was awful, and many of the elements of Metal Gear Solid 5 just kind of fell flat on its face.
Now, I didn't love what was happening with Metal Gear Solid 5 online necessarily. I dabbled with it, and I do see some of the elements here in Death Stranding that we've seen, but I also see something that was kind of spawned with the Demon Souls and Into the Souls games as well, leaving messages and other things for players. Hey, there's a thing over here. Oh, don't go over there.
Yep.
Like there's different signposts.
Take out your knife. You know?
And another thing about the whole stranding together and interacting with other folks is that there's a likes system in this game. So based upon the things you put, almost anything you do in the game, there's a like meter to it, particularly with the things that you can say to other players, right? Yeah. So, okay, you build a bridge, and it's a great bridge. And in fact, for some of the bridges, not the ladders, for some of the bridges in this game, you have to come together with other players to make them. And then only the player who contributes the most gets the acclaim of that bridge, and then people can like it. And then the more likes that gets, then that's good for you. I feel like Kojima has Twitter syndrome a little bit with this title, but I'm with you in that, like, this is this is wait.
Go ahead.
Like, interesting ideas,
sure,
but we don't know how this is going to play out, and it could very much become a sparse wasteland if there's not a lot of people jumping into this game and staying with the game past the 20-hour mark that he says is boring.
Yeah.
You know, are we going to get 30 hours in and then we're like, okay, traversing this area would be cool, but no one's built up anything. No one's put any signposts. So you have to methodically walk around like a barren landscape.
Yeah.
Whereas Kojima was like, no, by now, there should be a city, or there should be bridges everywhere. There should be ladders everywhere. There should be signs everywhere. But no one plays this game to this point.
See, this is the problem. If you haven't noticed, if you go to online and let's just say you go look at achievements for games on PlayStation, because this game is exclusive to the PlayStation 4 as of this moment, when you go to play many of those games, just look at the achievement system for end game achievements. We're talking about completing the story and stuff like that. Many of those achievements for many of those games typically stay under 20%. That means that a very small amount of players ever actually complete games or get to a part that's far out there. And I think that's going to be something you're likely going to see with this. But I've played a lot of Kojima games, and I'm gonna be brutally honest with you folks. Love the stories, love the gameplay, love the ingenuity. The whole reason I play Kojima games is because he thinks in a different way and produces a game that offers unique and completely different experiences.
I just want to say this one thing. We don't have a lot of people that are willing to throw the craziest ideas in the world at the wall, that have a AAA sort of pedigree backing to them. Kojima is like one of the last. We have like Suda51.
I was gonna just say Suda51.
Yeah, right. Grasshopper Studios, and I wouldn't even consider their games necessarily AAA, maybe like a AA weirdness kind of thing. We have Yoko Taro, the dude who was kind of behind Drakengard, and Nier Automata as well.
Yeah, many of these game designers.
Again,
Japanese and have that financial backing.
Again, more AA leaking into AAA.
Sure.
Like, yeah, no, they don't have, but Kojima still has. No, okay, here's money, and I'm glad that people like this exist. That are like this hasn't been done before. It's crazy.
Yes.
People might not get it, but let's try it because that's how new ideas prosper. But
every single game that Kojima has ever made, and I've played every single game, including the Penguin MSX game.
Right,
too,
yes.
Okay? I
recall that.
Okay. Every game that has had online functionality has sucked. Not the single player aspect, okay? I'm talking about the online features of all of those games. Every single one has had bad online. I don't care if you've been a fan of it. That's great. If you found something personally that you've enjoyed, that's cool. Everyone else has done the online better. somewhere else. The first time I ever played one of his games online was with Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence. That offered an online mode that was, it didn't exist for very long, but it was there. The online gameplay was terrible. It was completely awful compared to online things. However, the argument could be made that it was on the PlayStation 2. You needed a specific PlayStation 2, the slim one that had the Ethernet ability built into it for internet support, or you could have gotten a modem for the fat PlayStation 2 and played it that way.
Yeah, and multiplayer gameplay at that point online for console games, it was the very birth of it.
Yes,
right?
yes, it was a very different time. In fact, there are like I think at that time you could actually go with Final Fantasy online, but you needed like a hard drive attachment.
Final Fantasy 11.
Yeah. So there was things. Okay, it was an early state point. Then we saw the PSP have online functionality with some of its games, and that was mixed. I never really liked those games online. They always seemed to play terrible for me. Metal Gear Solid 4, in my mind, was the first time that a game was designed with online in mind from the beginning to the end for those kind of features. That online was so bad that I'm a massive Metal Gear fan. I could not bring myself to play it for more than I think 2 days. It was an awful experience from beginning to end, and if you buy Metal Gear Solid 4 now, they've actually patched that entire mode out. When you buy Metal Gear Solid 4 and install it on your PlayStation 3, the actual game updates and removes that chunk so you can't even access it anymore. That is how bad that was. If it was a great online experience, it would still be online today like Call of Duty. Then we got Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yeah, and we got the other Metal Gear Solid PSP titles.
Oh, we got those other ones.
Which had online functionality.
Yeah, to beat bosses, you could go together. Let's not even get into that one. Sure. That one was its own ball of crazy.
Anyway.
And also portable focus. Metal Gear Solid 5 had a problem where the game simply wasn't done and it was rushed out. So you could argue that the online experience there was going to be whatever it is. This game seems to have more of a focus online than any of his other games, and that's where my fears begin.
Yeah. I've never played a Kojima game specifically for the online offering.
Same.
So it's not to say that this isn't going to work, it's to say it's a proving ground, right? So we have to see what happens. He's really putting, like we're alluding to, he's really putting an emphasis on online multiplayer and interacting with other folks, of course. Stranding is a thing, but he actually said that this is going to be a genre. He's making this a genre, and he hopes that other people make Stranding games. You know, we have our Metroidvania titles. People hate that moniker, but that's the Stranding is going to be a thing now. And he was quoted as saying it'll take 1.5 to 2 games for it to fully flesh out and become a genre. I have no idea what that means. I hope that we look back on this hot take and we're like, oh yeah, we really didn't understand what was going on.
I'm hoping
he had this all planned out from the get-go.
See, the thing is, every amount of gameplay they've shown, the gameplay hasn't been exactly fantastic.
Let's talk a little bit more about some of the gameplay and stuff that we've seen.
TGS was a wall of footage, okay? But there was a couple things. Now, we're not going to talk about walking around fields.
You already know about that. Okay. You know that you're carrying packages. Sam's carrying packages. What we do know is that there's like a Tetris-like mechanic to kind of loading yourself up with your different things that you're bringing around with you. We know that while you're moving around, you got to balance these things, and he was constantly saying you got to press L and R.
Yep.
I'm not sure if that's the L1 R1 or if
whatever
that's the L3 R3. And so you gotta you gotta commit to your walk. And not trip, and you gotta make sure that your cargo doesn't get injured. It seems like very meticulous and methodical, and possibly like infuriating.
While on top of all
gameplay.
Of that, the character has to eat. He's got to pee. He's got to sleep. He gets tired. I mean, look, that might sound interesting to a lot of people. I hate mechanics that are added on that remove me from the fun aspects. In real life, I need to eat and sleep. I don't want to do it in a video game. Okay, that's just me. I hate doing it. And in the last couple of Metal Gear games, only, in my opinion, Metal Gear Solid 4 did a really bad thing where, spoilers for some, Solid Snake has a degenerative disease that makes him really old, and he has to take these shots to make him feel better. And every time you had to do that, I got so irritated with it, because it was like, you're making me play as a decrepit person who wasn't that the last game. It was an irritating thing. And there's a part of the narrative that is important to that, but you are still forced to play that way.
So where I feel like there's I'm a little more interested in seeing how things unravel with Death Stranding. It's that those mechanics of, especially when it comes to, we wanted to talk about this, the defecation and the urination. Yeah. These things are they're very focus heavy because something's going on within Sam. This might be a minor spoiler, but I don't think it is because they're already showing this off. But Sam is special in that his secretions, his blood, his pee, and his poo-poo are all, they can all be weaponized, and they're all special. Kojima kept saying that they're special.
Yeah, you literally shoot someone. There's like a villain that you shoot with like a poop shot.
Well, we saw in the TGS 2019 gameplay when Sam was dragged into the other world, the ink world that you alluded to earlier. He was throwing blood packs at this beast. We're to assume that that's Sam's blood.
Yeah.
Sam is sort of the weaponization. That aspect of the game, even though it's ridiculous and over the top and stupid
it's fine.
To an extent, I find it interesting.
Yeah.
And I want to see really what they do with it. The whole going outside and, again, urinating and a little mushroom pops up. And Kojima still hasn't really branched out about what this mushroom does, but he's like, yes, that's a mushroom. And if other Sams from other worlds also urinate on that mushroom, it'll get bigger. And if it gets really big, something great's gonna happen. And he keeps saying that, but he doesn't say what's gonna happen, Shane. What's gonna happen, Shane?
I don't know. I gotta be honest, the idea of Sam being the weapon, his body being the weapon.
That's interesting, I think.
That's a really cool idea. Did it need to be his urine and poop that you fling at enemies? I don't know, but I mean...
Did you have to see, like, the milliliters as they're leaving his bladder, the countdown? I mean... It's funny!
And I guess that's why he's got to eat and drink and stuff, because he has to build that stuff up to use as a weapon. So there's an aspect... Like, I'm not saying there's not an interesting thing there. It's just... It's bizarre. But all of this comes down to the point that the gameplay has to be fun. It just has to be fun.
Absolutely.
You have to make eating fun. You have to make sleeping fun. You have to make all that fun. When he showed off the gameplay, there was like a little camp, and there's these people there. I forget what they were called, and he was like attacking them with those
with the sort of rope guns, right, subduing them because he stole something from them.
Yes. Yeah. The gameplay looked slow, bulky, and hard to control.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. Okay, that's not good. Typically, when you see a game being presented in front of a group of people, what they do is they have someone playing the game as an example in front of you so that you can see a real world interaction. But we were seeing, as far as I can tell, no one was actually playing the game there. We were seeing pre-recorded footage showing you the best example of what the game is capable of. And even then, it looked clunky. That's my worry. Maybe when you get your hands on it, the whole thing's going to make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But the more features, the more abilities you add to the character, the more complex it is to control and the harder it is to play. And Metal Gear Solid 5 almost verged into that problem where there's a billion things you can do and it's too hard to control everything.
Red Dead Redemption 2, for example, is a great example of being too ambitious with some of the things that you're implementing into the game to the detriment of the audience. A lot of people were like, I just want to be a fun cowboy and shoot things.
I just want to do
I don't want to have to take all this time to do this, or things don't need to be that intricate. We talked about Kojima kind of leaving Konami and having the Konami cuffs released. He's free to do whatever he wants now, and this seems, if nothing else, and I don't mean this as a positive or a negative, it's the most indulgent Kojima game, as we see one section of the Tokyo Game Show was like a 30 or 40 minute gameplay excerpt of just Sam in his apartment or his little bunker. And
can we talk about that?
Go ahead.
Okay. So Kojima stated that the game can be either too stressful or too lonely or too isolating at a point where you don't enjoy playing it. So specifically, which that's a problem in of itself, specifically what he said he did was that he built areas into the world that you can go to that are basically rooms where you can customize them and just play around and stuff just to have fun. Which, isn't that what the game should be? Like, that should be the game?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, the fun part should be everything else, not the isolating, go to your room part.
So what we saw in this footage was, sleeping, of course, drinking some beer, playing around with a mirror. There's a lot of... Sam. Who's the character who plays Sam?
Sam Bridges. Oh, sorry, you're talking about Norman.
Norman Reedus.
Yeah.
Oh, Sam Bridges. So Norman.
That's his name, Sam Bridges.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, I think that's what they said a couple times. I don't know, but
Gosh. Okay, so we saw Norman Reedus. It's just a bunch of him improvising and stuff. Here's him in front of the mirror making a goofy face.
Yeah.
Here's him kicking a beer can away. And these are the sorts of things that I feel like players will enjoy the first time.
yeah.
And then, like, they're just going to be going there. Like, I recognize it for what it could be, and I'm hoping what it will be wind up being. Not a clunky space where you got to watch and do a bunch of things, but where you go to sleep, load up your poop bombs, get your pee-pee, and like, it's basically like the factory where you can, like, get all of your munitions before going back into the field. That's what I feel like people are going to be using that for.
I think so.
They have to prove otherwise.
Yeah.
I don't just want to make, like, I want to take a silly picture of Sam once or twice in front of the mirror, and then I'm good.
I don't even want to do it the one time. I don't.
You don't want to do it the one time?
I don't play. I don't play. Look, even Metal Gear, one of the other Metal Gear games, and I've played, like I said, played a lot of them. I think it was Metal Gear Solid 2. You got a camera, and with the camera, you could take pictures at a certain point and get pictures of like ghosts that were hidden around, and they're just developers and stuff of the game. They were hidden amongst the area. It was neat. It was a neat little thing. But that was because I really wanted to experience those things because I was so into the game that I wanted all that stuff. There's going to be people that want all those extra things, but the core gameplay of Metal Gear Solid 2, the sneaking and the combat, all of that was rock solid. It was perfect, well-defined, very well implemented, and it was a joy to play. I have not seen what this game is supposed to be yet. Metal Gear Solid 5 is the closest analogy to this game that I've seen because the gameplay looks like it's mimicking a lot of things.
And I feel like Metal Gear Solid 5 had a longer development time
Yes.
than this did, because this still seems like, even though it's been like 3.5 years, it still feels like only yesterday that things were popping up about this title. And yeah, 2015, he had just left a company that he'd been with for, decades. And then now this game's going to be releasing in just a couple months. It's coming up super quick. So
I mean, there's an idea here about this game.
Did they have enough time for this idea? Or are they able to flesh it out?
I don't believe they would be. I don't believe Kojima would be releasing a game if he wasn't capable of releasing it. What we do know, though, is that Konami had endless resources. They had tons of money to invest into their game industry, and we don't know if Kojima's in the same position. Did Kojima make a game restricting his vision to what was capable of being done with the amount of money that his brand new company that he's running had? Or was there a different idea at play where he thought of the grandest vision, something he could never do at Konami, and try to hear? I am still going to play this game. I'm still going to buy it day one. I'm very excited to take a look at it, and I know I'm going to enjoy some aspects of it. Like
I'm going to help you make a bridge, and if you want to be the one who does most of the work on the bridge, you can have it, and I will like your bridge as long as you like the signs that I put up near the saunas out in the wilderness, near the mushroom that I peed to grow. This game's crazy!
Every time I buy a game, every time I'm about to buy a game, I see a lot of marketing, a lot of hype, and those things always drive me to be more excited about the game the closer and closer to release. Every moment of Spider-Man on PlayStation 4 that we got closer to the release of that game, I was more and more excited. A little bit lukewarm at the beginning, got more excited as we went along.
Last of Us 2.
Last of Us 2.
I'm really excited about that because
Control
of their
as
campaign.
well.
Control, absolutely.
All these games got me really excited the more and more they go along. Death Stranding has had the exact opposite effect. I was really excited at the beginning, and I've gotten less and less as it's gone along, the more that's been revealed. It is bizarre. At this point, had it been any other developer, I would not be picking it up. But Kojima has rarely ever steered me wrong, so that's why I'm picking it up. I'm that much of a fan.
Only Kojima could make this game.
Yes.
Only he could get the funding for this game. Only he could get the talent, because there's still a lot of talented people behind this title,
sure,
right?
yes,
Just
there are.
across
Yes.
the board, actors and developers. And,
Yes.
It's only he could do this. I can't wait to see how it's going to unravel. Do I think it looks like something that I would be interested in if he wasn't behind it? Not necessarily, but because he is, I'm like, let's see how weird this gets.
So folks, how about you? Are you excited about this game? Do you think it's going to be really fun? Are you going to buy it day one, or are you going to wait to see what other people have to say about it? Let me make this clear.
Yeah.
If that's the case, if you're going to wait to see what other people have to say about it, don't. these are the kind of games where you likely have to experience it yourself.
Maybe just like look at the review score. This is like the only time I would say this. Like, is it getting mostly positive buzz, and then maybe jump in?
Is it gonna be a game you even want to look at the review?
Usually, you should look at reviews. You should always look at reviews. But this is maybe the only circumstance from like if it's up there, just maybe jump in.
If somebody doesn't get it, if somebody doesn't understand, and they only play like a minute of it and review it badly, it's gonna mark everything bad.
Imagine someone that doesn't play video games or know about the heritage, the whole Kojima thing, like just jumping in. Oh, this is what a video game is? Anyway, okay, so let us know what you think. And most importantly, Shane, I want to leave it with this.
Okay.
What do you think that mushroom does when it grows?